Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. On this edition, we are here to review Dark Souls Remastered on the Nintendo Switch. So a little bit of a twist on the formula because that offers some advantages perhaps in playing it on the go and perhaps some disadvantages. We'll see what the man in question has to say about that. But I'm joined by Pac-Man himself, our reigning Big Fat Gaming Quiz of the Year winner, Tom Adkins. No, Tom Adcock. That's the first time I've ever done that. So that's sort of 5 years, and that's happened once. Annoying. 1.5 bottles of wine. But yeah, how you doing, Adcock?
Yeah, I'm good. I didn't know if you were just going to correct it, but no, you just went with it. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just watched England win 5-0.
Well, don't say that, because it then sets it in time. This should be timeless, really.
So, didn't see that.
No.
Happened weeks ago. Months, even. Who knows? We're here to review Dark Souls Remastered. Okay. Now, you played this on the Nintendo Switch.
Correct.
So it will offer some unique quirks of its own just by having it on that machine. But this is a From Software game, and I know that you've played Dark Souls 3, cooperatively mainly, but you've played through it, and also Bloodborne. But
correct.
What is your feelings or thoughts towards From Software as a developer?
I mean, bloody hard games, didn't they, mate, really? That's what they do. Yeah, no, I love them. I think they're great. I think the new ones looks a bit different, but the games are quite similar in gameplay and tone and everything. But what they do very well, and they've kind of etched out a little niche that. I mean, there's a couple of people now that are kind of sort of copying them a little bit, but they still occupy their own kind of little space in the market for these ultra hard, very limited, storied, deep lore games, hardcore action RPGs. Some are saying.
Yeah, and are you a fan of this niche genre? I mean, if you had it your way, would you be playing these every month?
Can you be a fan of these sort of games? That's the question, because they are good. But my God, no, you would not want to be playing them every fucking month.
Well, have you got to be in a certain mode then, or have you got to have a breather from any From Software games before diving into a new one? Is that the general rule?
Yeah, for me, absolutely. But other people, no. Like New Game Plus. Oh, I'm going around for the 6th time. Are you? Is it therapeutic? Is it? No, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so no, yeah, for me, absolutely. I'm definitely going to get the Shadows Die twice, but I need a palate cleanser before going into that.
Yeah, it's weird that a game genre can do that to people. I mean, some people will just play the same type of games, like an open world game they'll look for and play that instantly, but they are draining, these From Software games. I remember my experience through Bloodborne, and it took a long time for it to click, and then when it did click, you kind of get addicted to it, and then, but when it's over, you're happy, you're relieved with getting it over and thinking, you know what, I can just not think about that for a little while. And it's a weird sensation in comparison to other games, because there are some games out there you just don't want to end.
Yeah, I think this is quite it's like survival horror as well. It's quite an intense experience. So, yeah, as much as you enjoy playing it, I think when you can it kind of reminds me of when I was like learning to drive. Like, it's kind of fun and exciting being in that car. Once you're back on your own 2 feet and you're like, right, no more stress, just sort of the pavement. I know how to deal with that. It's easy. So, I think that is the thing with these. They are real. They kind of consume you a bit, don't they?
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird to sort of. So I'm in the same boat as you. I think you're a little bit more keen on them than I am, but it's weird enjoying Bloodborne. It was my game of the year when it came out in 2015. Now I think it was. But usually you'd say, yeah, game of the year. Recommend it to anyone, but you can't, in good faith, can you? Recommend a From Software game to just anyone, because you need to be of a certain mindset and tolerance and patience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like my nephew described it well. I got to a boss on this, and it was only sort of the third or fourth boss, and I was like, I'm really struggling. He goes, yeah, they stick that one in there just to whittle out like the sort of the people who aren't going to play it. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, that's what everyone online says. He's just there, you know, they get easier again after that, but he's just there just to kind of, you know, whittle out anyone not man enough to carry on. And you're like, what kind of game is doing that? It's ridiculous. Like, whittle out the little rats who won't be able to carry on, but that is kind of what it does. So like, and then somebody else I know who played this, who started just before me, they killed one of like the early merchants and really cost himself, and like he didn't want to start the game again, couldn't really get any further, and just that was him done. And you're like, well, so yeah, you absolutely need to be of a certain mind. I think I remember you telling me actually on Bloodborne, I think it's a really good point. If you kind of can tap into that community outside of the game, where like people are kind of giving each other tips, and you know, you're watching videos and you're kind of getting into the lore of things, that can really sort of help you out. I think if you're part of like the wider experience and you realize you're not the only one like really struggling, then
yeah, because all you see in the highlights of like news or media is so and I sent you one today, didn't I? So and so has completed Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1 to 3, and Bloodborne without taking a hit, and he's done it back to back. And you see that, and you think, well, how can I relate to that when I'm sitting here struggling to get past one zone? But if you seek out the communities, which I had to do for Bloodborne in terms of tips and you know, asking where to go, it does make you feel a little bit more. You kind of feel like, okay, it's not just me. These games are rock hard, and most people will struggle with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird. I think everyone because it's not like the game doesn't scale like a normal game. It'll kind of have these like bottleneck points, really like hard, and then kind of you'll find your groove. So everyone seems to struggle on different parts of the game, and different bosses will really. I mean, there are a couple of like notorious ones, especially in this game. But generally speaking, like my nephew loves these games, and when I speak to him about it and what he struggled on Bloodborne and now on Dark Souls, it's like not what I struggled on. It's strange. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. I think it just depends on what build you set out with and how you sort of choose to play. Then
yeah, because you can, at least in my experience of Bloodborne, as hard as it was, if you put the time in to level up, that can make a huge difference. So you could sort of brute force your way through areas, which meant, you know, you're not as finesse, and you're not, you know, if you had a good build that took a lot of damage, you might struggle on X boss rather than you struggling on Y. But there's certainly a lot of flexibility in how you can approach it. There's no wrong way. You just have to get through it. You do what you got to do to get through the game. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's no shame in like stacking the deck like as much as you can, because it's still a fucking nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was a boss on Bloodborne that you used to be able to cheese, but they patched it out, and I didn't know this. And people on the community saying, "Oh yeah, just stand up and then just throw like Molotovs at him." But they patched it out so that he disappeared out of that room. And I was like, well, that ain't working now. And I was like, well, you're going to have to just beat him then. And I was like, fucking hell. It's not ideal. But yeah, I mean, they are a niche game, but I've enjoyed my experience with Bloodborne. I've missed the Dark Souls series and Demon Souls, which is kind of where it all began. But you've kind of played it backwards in terms of you went Bloodborne, then Dark Souls 3, which was a natural transition, and then gone back to Dark Souls Remastered. Would you have even got Dark Souls Remastered if it wasn't on Switch?
It's a good question. Not at the time. I think, did you pick up the pack, the all three of them in one?
I did, and then I thought it was a Steelbook edition, and it wasn't, so I sent it back. But
I thought you were joking when you said that. Amazing.
No, well, when you expect Steelbooks and you get normal cases... I kind of wanted it just there as a collector's thing. Like Even if I didn't play it, it was like that's there. It's a nice. I like steelbooks now. I'm into that, not these fucking £100 trophies. So it went back. All intention of maybe getting them digitally sometime down the line, or maybe just going, look, I've missed Dark Souls. I'll start with Bloodborne, and Sekiro sounds even worse. So I don't know if that's even going to get picked up, but yeah, I had to give it back. But you've obviously you said you may have perhaps picked them up now as they come with a trilogy, but Switch kind of forced you into an early purchase, maybe.
Yeah, I was late into getting a Switch, and then so by the time the Switch, I had got my hands on one. I'd already played Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, which I think is pretty much the same beast.
Still got to pick that up. Sitting here waiting for you.
Oh yeah, it's a waste of money, isn't it? Yeah, never getting played.
I haven't checked if the money's gone in. To be fair, so you could be lying to me for all I know.
It's definitely there, mate.
I'll check it out live and then.
And then Mario Odyssey, the other sort of big Switch game. I'm playing that now. I just borrowed that off a friend. So I was kind of like, right, what am I going to play? And it was pretty much an impulse purchase. Like, you
have paid. Well done.
Yeah, told you, mate. On time, full amount. No delivery of game though. That's the real quiz.
Did you pick it up and you forgot?
I'll pick it up or you drop it off, whichever comes first.
£5 surcharge, petrols.
Jesus,
it's expensive. It's going up.
Interwakering delivery, free of charge. Basically, like just getting a sort of mail drop at work on those little orange envelopes.
I'll see what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah,
it might appear. So anyway.
Yeah, so it was a bit of an impulse, got it, and thought, right, not really you sort of the classic Switch first purchase, but I'm going with it. Thought it would...
That's the first thing you bought on it?
Yeah. Straight to Dark Souls.
Yep.
And that was just sort of a little like notes. Bought that in probably, I would say, late October, early November. Just finished it. Had that on my commute every day, so
6 months. That's as good as
money well spent. That sort of pound for pound. There's more hours in Dark Souls than there is in many other games. So
yeah, that is very true. It's an interesting choice, and something that I'm sure we'll get into in terms of how the Switch performs, especially on a commute. I need my own area when playing these games, just because you want to scream sometimes, but we'll get into that a bit later on. This is obviously a remaster of Dark Souls, which was originally released on, it must have been the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's been spruced up a little bit. I don't know how much spruced up it's been for the remaster on Switch, but I'm sure it looks fine. But this is a bit of an odd one because I know typically with a From Software game there's not much to go on in terms of story, but is there a little rundown to this, or are you just sort of chucked in and then left to pick up notes and find out what's going on? Is there... I know people that the narratives are really good. I never can follow them, but I don't know if this is clicked for you. You've managed to get hold of a good narrative here, or just played it as a game.
So it's good that you've played Bloodborne, because then you got a base level of comparison.
Yeah.
I would say, you basically get a reasonable intro that sets up the world and pretty much the story, what you're trying to achieve. So definitely, one up on Bloodborne, which I thought it was amazing, but I had to just read all about it afterwards. I had no idea from the first minute to the last minute with that. All I knew, I was wandering around looking for blood. Don't know why. Yeah. But this, it's a bit more story-wise linear. You've got an objective. You kind of know who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, basically. So it's all there, and then all the deeper lore is exactly the same as Bloodborne, all in item descriptions, cryptic words from NPCs and things like that. But it's same as Bloodborne. If you how people piece it together, I don't really know. But once you kind of read into the lore, I'm well into it. I do like all this high fantasy stuff, so it's right up my street. And I do kind of cause I think sometimes when you are a bit stuck, but then you kind of read who you're fighting, what their background is, what's going on. I'm like, right, it's pretty cool. Right, I'm going to take you fuckers down. Yeah. So I'm on board with it. And it's very similar and sort of very good if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, so those expecting Red Dead Redemption levels of presentation for cutscenes, I'm assuming the cutscenes again are minimal. It might set up a boss and that's it. You're not going to get NPC interaction and action taking place. No, you get, are you?
Weirdly, one or two little interactions that are there with NPCs. Really bizarre, actually, but. Pretty much exactly that. You walk into an arena, a boss gets a cool little cutscene, and then that's it.
That's it. You go and take him down.
pretty much it. So yeah, almost non-existent, really.
I'm interested in this next one, like in terms of its presentation and performance, because it's been remastered, as we said, but it is on the Switch, which we know is not as powerful as a current gen or an Xbox or a PC or a PlayStation 4. How did the game look in terms of its presentation? Obviously, it's probably different from having it handheld. I don't know if you played it in docked mode as well, but how was it? Was it serviceable? Was it what you was expecting? Did it feel almost more like, actually this feels like a bit of a 360 game, just that it's on a Switch?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not the best man for this. Probably Tom Adkins, not Adcock, is your man for Digital Foundry kind of run rate specs and frames per second. So to me, it looked fine. I did read afterwards that it's a noticeable difference from this version on Switch compared to the kind of true remasters on the Xbox One, PS4, which I can see. So I've heard this is a slightly spruced up version of what was on the 360. Yeah. Some slightly better lighting effects, flame effects, some other things. But having said that, I remember seeing this around a mate's house, like in 2011 or 12 or whenever it was first released, and being like really impressed. So I think it looked good for its time. It still looks really good now, and like especially in handheld mode, where it's a bit more forgiving. Yeah, it's fantastic. But I did play it docked as well, and yeah, it's good. And I heard, again, never played the original, but I know in a couple of the levels or the parts of the world, it was notorious for terrible frame rate issues and like textures popping in and things.
Light Town, is it?
Like exactly that one. That one was. It's a real pig of a level anyway, and I think with that they just said it was made it impossible. And the thing they've always said about these games is they are ridiculously tough but fair. But that, from reading what that was like, that Blight Town, that doesn't sound fair at all, like the way it was. And there's none of that on this. It runs really nice. It's really smooth. Regardless of what's going on screen, it always runs. There's no, popping in of textures. It doesn't, slow down at all. It's absolutely fine.
Excellent. Did you have any crashes or anything like that, or was it?
No, absolute perfect. Really good. Switch was. Yeah, nothing like that. So no hard crash, no, nothing.
Does that impress you about the Switch, that it can have a game of that complexity? Fine, I know it's a last gen game, but still, you've picked that up, and for the best part of 6 months, day in day out, taken that game on the road with you and played it. I think
it is impressive.
That's a testament, isn't it, to what that machine can do?
Yeah, it's really true actually, because it's a fucking massive game, to be fair. And it takes a while to load it in, I guess, as you kind of boot up for the first time. But once you're in, It's no different from then reloading from death that it would have been from my memory on Bloodborne and things. So yeah, it is quite they are good though. Like, I mean, actually, From Software are a good developer, and they did take more. It was released a lot later than the ones on.
Got delayed, yeah.
Yeah, so Switch sort of costing them there, but I don't know what that was for. But yeah, they've done a stand-up job, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, it sounds. I don't know if they actually did the port themselves, but I don't think it matters too much. We know it's working well on the Switch and running.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. But yeah, you get these little companies that's their little business, isn't it? And they do.
Yeah, there's been a couple that have been doing Bethesda games, like putting Doom on the Switch and Wolfenstein. I mean, crazy stuff for them. But like you said, it's just that's like a little business now, isn't it? If you can take something and shrink it down to go on the Switch, you're laughing. One thing I would say, or wanted to ask about, was in handheld mode, how are things like the HUD, item boxes, do you know what I mean, when you're reading stuff?
Yeah.
To me, just from the outside, I've played games on the handheld and I know it's normally fine, but is there a concern there that you couldn't perhaps see or fiddle with things as much as you would like normally in terms of like viewing it?
It's almost the other problem. So they're kind of they don't rescale, or if they do, not enough. So they actually kind of take up a lot of the real estate on the smaller screen. Yeah. And like having got into that whole community and things, I did read a lot of people, that was one of their biggest complaints. I mean, because I predominantly played in handheld, and that was how I played, the first, 10 hours probably before I ever docked it. I was well used to it by then, so I can't complain, but it's definitely something that, is a slight issue, I guess. It's, don't know how difficult it would have been to have like a slider just to kind of minimize that if you don't, if you want it or whatever. But yeah, and I think the buttons are mapped a little bit oddly, again, because it's the only way I've played it. But like, having let my nephew have a go, he was like, this is weird. Like, it's all backwards compared to what you'd expect on the home consoles.
Yeah, well, it is a different console. Virtuous Studios did the port, by the way.
There you go.
Dark Souls Remastered. Apparently, they also did Rockstar's LA Noire, so they've done a couple of things. And the Bethesda games of Doom, Rocket League, and I think they also did Wolfenstein is Panic Button. So they're little specialists in their field, which is always good to see. And I think Nintendo are silently grateful for that, because it's sort of giving the system another edge, isn't it, or another dimension that you can play.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be interested to know what sort of sales they're sort of clocking up on this, but
yeah, the trouble with Nintendo is they just don't seem to share stuff, so you never quite find out. But I know the indie stuff or the smaller scale game, they're definitely finding a home there, because I do it. Anything that's sort of 2D or in that, I'm like, right, it's going on Switch. Like, there's no question about it. Just in case I fancy taking it on the go. It seems like a bit of a waste. Like, I bought Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation. I think, well, if this was on Switch, it would almost be perfect.
Actually get, it's very true.
It would actually get played instead of sitting there taking up hard drive space.
Yeah, because I bought that Hollow Knight on PS4, played it, loved it, but I've kind of just shelved it now. And again, that'd be a perfect commute game, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want you to go through how Dark Souls Remastered is structured in terms of its open world, because one thing I took away from Bloodborne was how masterful the level design was, how interconnected the world was, and the little shortcuts you would unlock, the little secrets you could find. This was made many years before Bloodborne, so is that DNA still there? And is it as good as the more recent games such as Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls Bloodborne in that sort of aspect in terms of like world design?
Yeah, so yeah, it's very similar. You can tell it's its bastard brother of all those games. So instead of like the Hunter's Dream from Bloodborne, if you remember that, the kind of safe world where you'd level up and you'd interact with the doll and
that's it,
Giram or whatever his name is in his little wheelchair.
Yeah, the old hunter.
Little bastard. In this one, it's all kind of in the same world. So Firelink Shrine is your sort of home base.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, if you meet an NPC, they'll often wander back there and they'll sell you, like, spells and upgrades and things.
Can you just kill those NPCs like you did in Bloodborne? Yep.
Done that. Yeah. Yep. Sort of went on a murderous spree, like, towards the end I did. All their souls. They weren't doing nothing, just giving me gibberish and selling me shit that I couldn't use. So, yeah. Well, I actually hit one by mistake, and then he's aggroed and he doesn't ever calm down, so he's got to take him out after that, yeah. And then I didn't realise you could do it, so then I was kind of fascinated. I was like, oh, can I kill this one? And then realised you could kill them all.
That's funny, because the game, from my experience, sort of kind of nearly always is auto-saving. So if you make a mistake like that, the chances are you can't just quickly turn it off and start again and go from another save, can you?
No, and that's what my mate said, who killed the merchant fella. He goes, like, everything in that game is just out to kill you. He just assumed it was another enemy who hadn't woken up and just wiped him out. Realised his mistake. So, yeah. But, I mean, I don't really know how he's done that, to be honest. Like, you can normally tell. But, yeah, so Firelink Shrine is like your sort of hub. And then the game twists and winds and shortcuts its way back there like many times. One thing I will say is that in Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, if you'll remember, you can basically, once you hit a lamp in Bloodborne, you can always teleport back there any time. So if you want to do a bit of farming, there's a nice little route. This isn't like that. So for the first probably 2/3 of the game, there is no fast travel.
What?
Which... yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Is that in Dark Souls 3? You
can, yeah, right. They've changed it.
They've learned that then, haven't they?
And the thing is, I'm slightly surprised they didn't change it. Because one of the other fixes I know they've done in this is like when you use items, if you remember, like you'll collect some souls of brave warrior or whatever, and if you want to consume them, you can consume 10 at once. Apparently on this, you used to have to do it one at a time. I think a lot of games of that era used to make you do that. Just a real stupid thing. So they've fixed that now. You can, if you want to consume 10 of anything, you can do it at once. But this fast travel has been left. And on the one hand, I kind of see it because it does make the game a lot harder. And I'll tell you why in a second. So people would probably go, oh, they've dumbed it down for the new generation. Yeah. So I kind of get it that way. But it does feel, having played those newer games first, it was a real kick in the teeth even before it became a problem for me. Yeah. And this is what, it was a real bastard, because I don't know if this happens in Bloodborne, but there's a couple of things in this game that they're literally sick, twisted. So at 2 or 3 places in the game, you can get cursed. And if you get cursed, it means that your energy bar goes down to half. Yeah. And for every soul you farm, you get half the souls, or souls in this, it's not blood. It makes it a real nightmare. So I basically managed to avoid that. There's a real, just before you get to Blighttown, actually, you go through this area called the Depths, and there's these like poisonous frogs. They look harmless, but they can literally cause you such a problem. And then the only way to fix this is at like 2 or 3 points in the game there's nowhere near where you are. Yeah. So then you've got to backtrack, all the way there and all the way back to potentially get cursed again. Like, it's, and all the enemy,
just so people that haven't played them, every time you reload or anything, all the enemies respawn apart from the bosses. So
yeah, and some particularly hard
clear a path. Yeah, no, you can't just clear out a path and then go through it afterwards. You clear out the path and then you load, or something happens, you go back through it, they're all back again. Yeah,
it kind of puts it, I don't want to go into it too much because I'm sure people know the gist of these games by now, but yeah, it's like a risk and reward kind of deal where every time you kill an enemy you get some of their souls. Souls are like the currency you use for upgrading.
That's it.
So you can collect a bunch, and then you might think, right, I'll go and sort of save it at one of these bonfires or lamps in Bloodborne. But by doing that, as you say, you're resetting every enemy that you've kind of encountered up to that point. So yeah, it's no easy feat to kind of backtrack, the sort of distances it forces you in this game. And what happened to me, I avoided the curses. So I was thinking, this is great.
Lucky bastard.
Didn't know about this though. I sort of was in this area, and there was these kind of spider type creatures. Nothing what I know happened, but I saw my little fella do like a little animation I hadn't seen before. He was scratching his head. It's like, that's weird. God. Half an hour later, I grew a fucking massive egg on my head, like a cobweb head. So I was like, right, this is weird. Read about it, and essentially I'd been infected by a parasite, which meant that my damage output was well down, and
Christ.
And every time I collected a soul, the parasite would take half and I got half.
Lovely.
So, and I was at a point in the game, like, it could not have happened at a worse time. And I basically got stuck on probably the hardest bosses because you fight 2 bosses at once. The real fucking sicker part of the game. I refused to go backwards because basically the only place I could get this fixed would have taken me back through the depths, through Blighttown. It was like a nightmare. It was like the worst journey you could ever think of going on. So I was like, no, not doing that. So it took me 6 weeks of commutes to beat this boss. Literally, that was my life for 6 weeks. It was insane. And that's my point, with the Switch, is that had that been on home console, that's gone. That's gone. That ain't happening.
That's dropped, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I was forced on that C to C every day.
Was it an hour? Would you get 40 minutes in or something?
It was just that. It was an extra part of my job. I was like, right, so I go to work all day, and on the way back I play Dark Souls, and I do the same bit. Do you know what's so weird? I done it so often, I forgot there was like a whole world in this game. All I knew were these 6 corridors and a boss battle. That was it.
Oh God! Could you not level up in that area?
Yeah, but at half speed. So every enemy I got, I was getting half the souls. So I did that.
God.
Like, so what I would do for a couple of those weeks is like Monday through Thursday, I just would farm, and on Friday I'd have a go at the bosses, and it was ridiculous.
On the way home, not on the way into work.
No, I couldn't do it on the way into work as well. It's just on the way home.
Unbelievable. So, in your view, that particular, is that a good design? That to me, it sounds like it isn't, because they changed the structure, i.e., you can travel freely. But do you, in a twisted way, appreciate that they made it difficult?
No, it's ridiculous. Because
took it too far.
Yeah, because basically, how to fix it. It's not, the internet's there. It's quite easy. It's just causing you a real hassle, because later on in the game there's an enemy who cursed me, like a boss, but the cure is literally like right outside his room. There's a certain enemy you can kill, and you've got like a 20-30% chance of them dropping the exact item you need to fix the curse, which it makes sense. It's like a game mechanic. This is just fucked up, basically.
So when you eventually beat those bosses, did you have to then, was the cure for the egg further on, like not as far, or did you have to go back and do the Blighttown trip eventually? No,
see, this is the thing. This is why I was in it was the worst possible timing, is because where I was sort of 2/3 into the game, the minute I beat these bosses, fast travel opened up. So I knew this by reading. I knew like the sort of predicament I found myself in.
Yeah.
And I was like, all I've got to do is beat them, and then I can literally teleport exactly to where I need to be, fix myself, and then, I've leveled up so much now that I'm, should be kind of overpowered for a while and should be on a good path. And so, eventually, I kind of got through it, and I was like, right, it's back on track.
In hindsight, would it have been quicker to go back through?
Oh, mate. Yeah. Probably would have taken me 2 hours there, 2 hours back, like in real, 24-hour time period.
1 week. That would have been done.
Well,
there you go. You live and learn, don't you?
Yeah.
Live and learn. So you can level up your character in this. Can you create your character in this? I know in Bloodborne you could have, there's a really basic character creation, but can you like set a build out and change the appearance of your character?
Yeah, exactly the same, just probably slightly poorer. I can't remember on Bloodborne, but so you can light, heavy, old, young, all the same. I mean, it's all bullshit really, and none of them look good. But it's all there. You're kind of like a nameless knight in this one. So try and make him as much like Sean Bean and get on with it. That's the sort of that's the game really.
So, in terms of the highlights of the Dark Souls franchise and Bloodborne, or the Soulsborne, whatever you want to call them, everyone raves about the bosses. Now, you've been fortunate enough to have already played through 2 of the more recent games. Were the bosses up to scratch in terms of design and perhaps difficulty, or did you think they've done this better in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3?
They're definitely of the same caliber. I mean, I don't know if it's because it's the first one I played. I do prefer Bloodborne. I think they're incredible, and maybe it was just that kind of setting and the whole church and some more human sort of enemies were really interesting in that. But they're all here and they're all really good. There's 2 or 3 especially great ones. I don't know if you can. I'm not doing my classic. I was going to about to say, can you really spoil a 10-year-old game, and then just going to rattle on? But I'm not going to do it. No, there's some really nice ones in there. There's 2 or 3 that really stand out. But I won't say anything in case people want to play it. But
I think you've put them off after that fucking egg parasite incident.
Stay away, mate. When you're in the spider world, just leave anything alone. I'm
assuming that just infected you by touching you once. It's some bullshit like that. If you took damage in that area, it would have.
Yeah, I think basically when you kill this enemy, it spews out a load of little parasites. But I don't remember seeing it, and obviously I was like, I'm not trying that again. But but it's obviously it's delayed.
Well, you can't try it again, can you? Because it just saves.
Well, no, because they're everywhere. This whole area is swarming with them.
And even if you wanted to go back and say, I want to get rid of that parasite, once it's happened.
Oh yeah,
earlier,
sorry, you're done for. And because it's delayed, I'd already gone on miles before it decided to hatch on my head and actually ruin my life for the next 6 weeks.
Oh dear! But so overall, there's no kind of like microtransactions in this, is it? It's just a straightforward experience.
Yeah.
Is there any multiplayer in this one? Because I know Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. I mean, the Switch is an odd console in that it's probably the worst at online multiplayer of the last 5-10 years. Like, the old consoles had it better than this. I'm sure the Wii and the Wii U had it better than this, but for some reason with the Switch, their online's pretty diabolical. Do you know if there's an option to like call in people? Can they invade you? I know that's been a big part of both the Bloodborne and Souls franchises.
Yeah, so that's all there and present. So again, you kind of risk and reward. If you can consume this like object called humanity. I can't remember what it is in Bloodborne, or if you just, it's just a different sort of
insight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is similar. Yeah. So instead of insight, you got humanity. So you're like an undead. So you can reclaim you can consume a humanity to do as it says. You kind of become human again.
Yeah.
Which has a couple of advantages. I think you've actually got slightly more health. It means you can actually then summon players to come into your world to help you through clear levels down and clear bosses. Yeah. But by the same time, people who are looking to farm their own humanity can invade your world, kill you, take all your souls. Yeah, I mean,
can you stop that? Other than disconnecting?
Yeah, only by playing offline or not consuming humanity. That's it.
Oh, okay. So as soon as if you consume one bit of humanity, it opens you up, or
exactly. So it's a two-way street. So you're there. You can then put a summoning sign down to get someone in to help.
Gotcha.
But then you can be invaded and have fucking life ruined. But as you say, the online on the Wii is poor to say the least. So it was never something I really ever considered doing anyway.
No, I mean on Bloodborne it worked a little bit differently, because I know you played that offline, but essentially you'd consume this insight and then that would let you ring a bell to call people in to help you, or you could ring a bell for like help. So if someone was asking for help, you could then be sucked into it.
Right, okay.
But there were certain levels in Bloodborne where there would be a woman ringing a bell, and if that was present on the level, someone could invade you at any time.
Right.
So, but you could prevent it if you went and killed her. That stopped any invasions.
Oh, right. Okay.
She was permadeath as well. So once you've got rid of her, you don't have to worry about them. So as soon as I heard that bell, that's the first thing I did, was like, right, let's sprint and get rid of her. A couple of people got in and obviously slaughtered me because they were of, much better skill level. But it sounds like there's a little bit of a change here, in that you can't stop it once you've done that humanity.
Yeah, exactly. I think they've kind of cleared up things as they've gone along, haven't they? Learned what, I guess.
Yeah, they've definitely streamlined them, probably for the better in most cases. I mean, the key question, I guess, in terms of its design is: do you think the difficulty is well balanced, taking into account your terrible experience with a parasite and bosses and whatnot? But overall, how does this fare in terms of its difficulty? And do you think it is fair?
My honest answer is it's incredible. It's actually really well balanced, in that this was like just a ridiculous one-off kind of, wrong place, wrong time, got really stuck. I think they were fucked up my head because I kept losing to them too much. If I take that one boss out of the equation, by all means, they were like really difficult, and I died, probably between 10 and 20 times on each boss on an average. Sometimes much more, sometimes less. But the thing is, I think once it forces you to kind of go really you don't get a lot of information. No. But you are really forced to kind of read the descriptions and understand where to use like bits of kit. Probably more so. I found Bloodborne, in a way it's better, I guess, because it's probably more skill based. You remember that whole regain your health. So if you took a hit in Bloodborne, you kind of had to get in and get a hit back. You had like a 5 second. It wasn't 5 seconds. It's probably like 2 seconds. So if you hit me, if I then hit you, I regain my health back. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So
that whole trade, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that mechanic was there, and it kind of made you become quite skillful, and you'd find like a good rhythm for the game. Bloodborne, Dark Souls is a lot slower, so you've got like exactly, yeah. So you're kind of much more reliant on your kit. And what I found was, if I was struggling on a boss, it was usually just because I was using the wrong build. So if I kind of looked, it's hard to kind of get a read on what you should be using. It's kind of trial and error. But once you read through everything you've got, and you just kind of think, right, well, let's try heavy build, and you've got these rings, like magic rings that can help, and you would then, think, right, he's not so hard. I'm using the wrong shit on him, basically. He's weak to lightning, weak to fire. How about I do this and that? And yeah, it's really well balanced, I would say.
Is it, for a normal gamer like us two, is it possible to get through this and perhaps some of the other games without consulting the internet for tips or stuck points? Do you think eventually you could work it out, or do you think there's just an element where you have to just sort of hold your hands up and say, look, I need some support with this in terms of where to go or what to do next? Yeah,
option B for sure. I think in this one as well, like, there's a lot of like just hidden walls and things, and really sort of key bits of kit that are hidden in really obscure places, and even, I don't know if you remember Bloodborne, but like to get a better ending, you have to consume like 3 bits of umbilical cord that are like really. It's
you'd never find that on your first run, not knowing what to do. Like it's really obtuse in terms of you've got to speak to certain NPCs, then kill the. I can't remember what the exact thing, but
but if you don't do it at the right time in the game, there's kind of like lockdown bits in the game, where the world will change and then the NPC's not where he is.
Along.
Yeah, and it's the same in this, but probably even, like I said, more so, because like in Bloodborne, I think I pretty much used the sort of vanilla weapon the whole way through. I'm sure I upgraded it, but in this, there's like certain bosses, I'd say, without certain bits of armor would be almost impossible to beat. And I only found the armor because somebody told me, if you're in this bit of the world, make sure you roll through this fireplace to get this. And I'm like, well, how's that happening? I'm not finding that. So in that respect, you could say, you probably mark it down as it's not great game design, but by luck or judgment, this whole community's kind of sprung up around the games that make that kind of thing quite rewarding. And I think they are so hard that there's absolutely like no shame in, whatever you need to do, read a bit, summon someone to help you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of get through these games by any means possible, I think.
Yeah. It'd be good if one day a few of us could start one of these games together and then just sort of try and work it out between us.
Yeah.
Now, that would be really cool, but I just don't see that happening. I think it's us two and maybe Adkins who'd be willing to take on something like Sekiro, so I don't think it will, but yeah, I felt like the crutch of having those communities or that help was needed for Bloodborne to get through some bits of that.
Yeah, pre-internet days, this would be a fucking nightmare waiting for like Nintendo Power to come out with a bit of snippet or Games Master. Yeah, I used to ring them, actually. They're fucking ridiculous.
Are they actually helpful?
No, they're useless. So I got stuck on a Zelda once. Some like little nerd in America. My mum's phone bill blew up, and like, because it's really hard to explain like where you are in a game like Zelda, and in a dungeon, like where you are, what you've done up until that point. And I think I'd sort of made up an item I need. I was like, I need some kind of visor, and he was like, well, there is no visor. And I was like, right, well, it's cost me £8 to find that out. Cheers.
See you later.
Yeah. So
God bless the internet. Mechanics and control. I mean, again, you've played these series backwards, but how does this hold up in comparison? Not necessarily to Bloodborne, because I think you've kind of alluded to the fact that it's quite different, isn't it? Souls and Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Like the combat style is certainly different. There's no shield in Bloodborne. It's it's attack or die basically. Whereas Souls sounds like it's a bit more of a slower experience. But is there anything that Dark Souls Remastered didn't have that Dark Souls 3 had, and that when you switched it on to play you missed?
No, I mean, I had a completely different build. I played Dark Souls 3 as like a magician. Terrible idea. And then
the weakest of the lot, isn't it?
Well, it's meant to be a real struggle at the beginning, but they're meant to help you out a lot later on. It never helped me out. It was terrible. And in this, I played much more of a sort of brute slugger kind of
tank, like take damage, give
exactly. Yeah, so very different in that respect. So I can't really comment, but it plays really nicely. I mean, completely different, as I said. You've got to be a lot more patient in this. Same thing that any basic grunt can absolutely wipe you out if you don't pay attention and respect them. But you're given all the skills. It's, you know, everything's there that you'd expect. You know, there's like advanced like parrying moves that if you time right, leave the enemy open to like a massive rip roasting. Yeah. So everything from Bloodborne and the later games is kind of there and present. And yeah, you know, you kind of pick if you want to go super light. I've seen people online running around in their pants at like 400 miles an hour, not taking a hit.
Yeah.
Or you can turn up like an absolute fucking thunder tank and just, see if you can take a hit and then dish one out.
Does the shield block boss attacks, or do they just climb on top of you and hurt you? Like,
it depends. Obviously, the big thing is, so you got shields ranging like sort of like Breath of the Wild, you know, from like a couple of sticks basically up to like an absolute half a tank sort of standing. Yeah. But then you need the stamina to be able to hold those bigger shields, and some of them.
So that costs stamina to hold it. Like,
exactly. So basically, you'll take a hit, and then your stamina, because it's so heavy, will just drop down. And you can't even then raise it a second time. And obviously, against the boss characters, that becomes a real sort of feature. Then, if you're running out of like stamina, so you can't roll out the way or can't lift your shield, you're going to get absolutely tanked.
Not ideal in that stage. So, I think one of the interesting things about the version you've played is that it is on the Switch, and it is something that you've played extensively in handheld. And again, having played Bloodborne, one of the important things was having that PlayStation 4 DualShock 4 controller in my hand, feeling like it was a good controller, all the controls were set out nicely, and that whatever I was doing felt natural. I've played a lot in handheld of the Switch, and it's good, but you can definitely feel the difference in a game where it requires a little bit more, you know, nuance or skill. How did you find playing a difficult game like Dark Souls Remastered on the Nintendo Switch in the handheld mode?
Yeah, absolutely fine, if I'm honest. I actually, like controller-wise, have you got the Pro Controller for Switch?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I haven't. So I've only got, you know, where you put the two little Joy-Cons in that.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. When you've got that as your other option, for me, the handheld mode was actually, obviously, I did prefer docks. They were, and especially in some of the darker levels, like there's a real, like, it's a lot easier, obviously, to play it on a full-size TV than on a little screen. But controller-wise, I actually preferred it in handheld, is what I got used to.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I think it is quite nice, and I really don't like that sort of halfway house controller. They kind of, it's definitely not the best.
Did you ever play with the Joy-Cons just not attached to anything, like separated completely, so you just got two free hands?
No, do you know what? I forgot you could even. It's only because now I've been playing Mario, and they try and sort of sell you to play it that way. That I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that on the train. I look fucking mental. But yeah, no, I didn't even think about it, to be honest. It probably would have been a little bit better, actually.
Yeah, and you, overall in playing this, do you think it would have been easier playing it on like a Xbox or in your case a PlayStation 4, or do you think actually the Switch, even in handheld or docked, was perfectly, you know, a good vehicle to get through this game?
A completely adequate, good even, but yeah, it would have been easier. Like, you know, that PlayStation controller is lovely, and again, the Xbox one's good as well. So you can't deny that wouldn't have been a better experience.
Interesting. Well, have you got any other business that you'd want to mention about Dark Souls Remastered on Switch, or have you covered the main points you want to speak about?
I think everything's covered. I would just say that if you're kind of, you know, thinking about dipping your toe in, and, you know, you haven't dug out your Switch for a while, I think this could be, especially if you do a commute and you've got time, and, you know, you can kind of give it the patience it requires. And it's a very, like, good game for, like, setting yourself, like, as I found out, over 6 weeks, your little tasks. So you can spend a couple of days, you know, farming or trying to get to this bonfire or this boss or whatever. So it's not the most obvious choice for a handheld Switch game, but it really does lend itself to it. So I would say if you can get it at a decent price and you haven't played your Switch for a while, then...
Well, I think one of the interesting things about Dark Souls on the Switch is, and correct me if I'm completely wrong here, you can put the console in sleep mode and you can pick up from where you left off, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I think what I found out is it seems to be a little to stop, like just to sort of. So there's no way of cheating the system. I feel like it kind of, you put it in sleep mode, but the game stays live for about enough time that a boss will kill you. There ain't no way of.
Oh, so don't enter the boss room and then go, right, I'm just
you'll start back at the bonfire. They've killed you every time. Yeah. But any other time, as long as there's no enemies in sight, you can just kind of come out into sleep mode into the menu, and then you're back in exactly where you left off. So you've got like permanent pause basically anytime you want.
Yeah, I think that's important for a handheld game, especially if you're playing it on a time limit, is that you don't want to get in between bonfires and then think, I'm fucked now, I've got to just completely restart from the beginning, where it sounds like in this case, you just make sure your surroundings are safe, put it on sleep mode, when you come back to it, you're there again. Yeah,
exactly. So it's a really handy thing. I just, it was kind of second nature. I didn't even, because it was like literally the first game I played on Switch, I didn't really think anything of it. It was only when I spoke to you, you were like, oh yeah, it's actually pretty smart. And I was like, I guess so.
Because you'd think in a game like this where you can't save scum it or anything like that it wouldn't let you do things like that.
Yeah.
As soon as you shut the console off for any sort of time, it would just go, right, you're back at the last bonfire. But glad to see that they're embracing the features of the Switch that allow you to just kind of pick up and go from where you were. And in fair to the consoles, you can kind of do that with them, with their like rest mode on the PlayStation 4 and instant on Xbox. But especially with a handheld where you might be just getting 40 minutes in, you kind of need that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, you could get 39 minutes through a 45-minute section and think, well, that's it now, I've got to go back to the beginning. So definitely worth calling out for those that are thinking, I've got to at least get to the next bonfire or beat the boss to save my progress. Not the case. You can utilise the sleep functionality and pick up where you left off. Closing thoughts and final verdict on Dark Souls Remastered, and I must stress this is for the Switch, so I think that does come with its own unique problems and advantages compared to just playing this on the console. So let's hear what your final thoughts are.
Final thoughts are, and because I think there's a big enough difference with the Switch version. The handheld does do it, so this is purely Switch. But I'm really glad I've actually got to play this. I kind of thought I'd missed the boat with it, but might be sort of 5 or 6 years late to the party, but I'm done it, and I'm going to give Dark Souls Remastered on the Switch a whopping 9 out of 10.
Fucking hell. Parasite in the head, 6 weeks.
And that's with the Parasite, yeah. That's what I mean. Like, it's got to be something special that keeps you coming back when that's going on in your life. Like, commute or no commute, that's...
Was it special, or you just had nothing better to do? That's what people are... I can hear them already. They're sort of...
Mate, I had loads more to do. Smash Brothers sitting there. Travis May Die, or whatever his name. No More Heroes. In the draft, sort of bought that because I thought it was going to be good. Apparently it's dreadful. That's the genius of these games. And I know maybe it's not for everyone, but for them to be this hard and to absolutely wipe the floor with you over and over again, but to have some sort of magic there to keep you coming back, and that like deep lore that, again, not for everyone. Some people who like Naughty Dog and whatever, that's how they like their storytelling. It's not going to be for you, but it's there, and it's a real world, and it's deep, and everything's got a backstory, and it all interconnects. It is genius. It's fucking amazing, and it holds up really well considering it is an older game.
So 9 out of 10 gives it a gold seal of approval, which is always good here in the Dimp Digital ranks. You've played Bloodborne and you've played Dark Souls 3. Would they be in and around that same area for scores, or slightly above, or if you had to rank the three, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And don't be tied to the scores.
No. I need to go back and do Dark Souls 3, and I will do that as a solo, because I kind of done it as it's almost sort of like just a whistle stop tour, like having someone else with you. Like I pretty much multiplayed the whole game, so it was a completely different experience. So I almost feel like I can't even rate that. Bloodborne, do you know what? I feel like in hindsight, I'd give it a full 10. It's that game has just stuck with me so much, and sometimes I'll just find myself now just going on like, one of the sites just looking at like Father Gascoigne, like reading his little like bio and that. I'm like, yeah, he's all right, that fucking bastard. You know, like
yeah,
that. It's very, very special. That game, really, really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we a lot of people when they see this are thinking, hang on a minute, it's the weekend of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. What's going? Why are we getting Dark Souls? And we thought, well, we'll make it a From Software weekend in some ways. That's why we've come out of this. But Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is now out in the wild. It's scoring very highly at the moment. It's on par with sort of Resi 2 for this year. The initial kind of feedback I've had from you know the reviews and whatnot is that this is perhaps a new level of difficulty, which I'm not sure if it appeals to me or scares me, in all honesty. But in terms of your interest, how does this stack up? Because it's a brand new From Software game. It's a brand new setting, sort of ninja. It looks a little bit like a cross between Tenchu and Ninja Gaiden. I mean, how's this sitting on your sniffometer in terms of whether you're likely to get it?
So full sniff, 100% going to pick it up. I'm on board with the From Software guys now, I think. So it wouldn't take a lot. It'd take a poor review and I wouldn't get it. I've got to say, I'm not so keen on the setting.
Oh, really?
Not that I'm against it. I don't mind the whole sort of kind of ancient Japan stroke, monsters and like God knows what's going on, and a bit of
a bit more. They say it's a bit more grounded. You know, Orientals make very good workers.
Well, not you, the other one. Yeah, like I'm not as keen on the setting, but I think I can get on board with that. But everything else about it, I watched like a 15-minute playthrough. It looks incredible, and I kind of really like it's all a bit like it might be a bit like Assassin's Creed. Like I was watching this bit where there was like a boss that was like resilient to pretty much everything, and then but by listening to like the NPCs kind of talk to each other, you realise that he's weak to fire, and then you can kind of go off and do another quest to kind of get some sort of flame attachment for your sword or your arm or whatever it is, and you come back and you can actually dish out some damage. So I'm like, right, the DNA again seems very similar, but then they've really kind of made some changes to make it a different beast. So yeah, I think it looks great, and I'm 100% going to get it. But it is that absolute palate cleanser needed. Sort of Mario Odyssey's being played now, so getting through that, and then maybe I don't even know if it'd be the game after that. I think I need another one, and then basically I've got a fucking big backlog as well, so I'm quite happy. I'll get it when I'm ready to play it. I'm not adding anything more to the backlog, so that's the rule. So hopefully it'll come down in price a little bit by the time I pick it up.
Yeah, one thing I haven't been able to figure out is whether it retains that same world design that we've been talking about, i.e. the interconnected kind of world of the, I don't know if they're going to be bonfires or whatever, but shortcuts and things like that.
From what I know, it's all still there. I think basically it's not like a character creation, so you are who you are.
A fellow,
yeah, and the story's a lot more just like linear and like obvious. You've got a clear
cutscenes.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a clear objective. Your
dog.
Yeah, sort of cash. That's it now. We've got our own storyteller. Well, you haven't now, have you? You've copied everyone else.
But sold out
exactly.
Finally, 2019.
But I think in terms of interconnected world. Bonfires and like crazy bosses, they're all there like as normal, so it's definitely still the same sort of beast, I'd say.
I'm kind of torn. There's part of me that wants to go back and do Bloodborne one more maybe two more times and do all three of the endings or whatever you can unlock in that, but then there's part of me that feels like I should just let Bloodborne die and just dive into Sekiro and make it like a year's project to try and get through it by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
But then there's part of me that thinks, you don't need to be playing that. You've got plenty of games in your backlog that are nice. I'll say that got nice. Like Trials Rising, rather. That ain't nice. That's fucking difficult in a different way, but it's still that level of you can fuck it up. And so I don't know. I'm interested in Sekiro, and
the thing is, though, mate, like you said, that Bloodborne Game of the Year, and I know it's kind of sort of it's that whole kind of double-edged sword of like, you know, you're like, right, Game of the Year. But I don't want. There's another sort of 4 games out there in the wild, and I ain't going near any of them. Sort of still book on my shelf.
Because once you start a From Software game, the worst thing you can do is get a quarter of the way through it and drop it and try and come back.
I don't know if you could, that'd even be possible, really, would it?
You have to see it through, don't you? You have to just see it through, because any sort of gap means probably a restart minimum, and just to get back into it. But that's the thing. I don't know if I've got the guts for that. When there's things coming out, perhaps next month, I might be interested in like Days Gone or something like that. It's that they have to have their own timetable. These from
the thing is, what I'll say is they're not. I don't feel like, because you know the people who generally play them are few and far between out of, you know, a friendship group and whatever. I don't feel like you missed the boat on them. You can come. I played Bloodborne a couple of years after it was out. I've been behind with all of them and never felt like that's an issue, really. So,
if anything, it's an advantage because all the tactics and secrets are out there. So if you need them, you can just you can get a bit of support with them. Can you imagine playing those games for review? Like if you was in if we were like this tin pot shit, like they said, right, Adcock, we've got Sekiro in, like we need it reviewed by deadline, sort of latest Thursday, so we can get it up by the embargo. There's probably a couple of hundred other people that have got it. No, like online forums. Off you go. Make sure you get to the end of it to review it. It kind of gives me a new respect for the reviewers that have to do that.
Yeah, I'll just be like, games. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, all of it really. All the main bosses. Yeah,
all the good ones, all the big ones.
You did get through it. Yeah.
Absolutely, totally deaf.
But I don't know if they could make a better game if they could hear what they're doing. Yeah, mate, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be ridiculous. I don't know how you're doing that and how you're enjoying it. I mean, fucking hell.
It's not ideal, because there was even like Resident Evil 2, IGN ended up only playing half the game and reviewing it because they didn't realise that the second run was a different, and I use different in the lightest of terms, like campaign. They basically restarted as Claire or Leon, and then saw that the cutscenes were the same and went, oh, it's the same, and then binned it. that to pull the review down and like re-put it up, and I think they gave it an extra couple of points because there are 2 campaigns technically there. So if those sort of mistakes are being made with Resident Evil, which isn't the hardest of game, well, it's not easy, but it's, you know, it's a different type of game. But if you're missing that sort of nuance, then trying to get through something like Sekiro or Bloodborne or Dark Souls on a deadline just sounds like true hell to me.
Yeah, it'd be torture, wouldn't it?
You've got to finish Resi 2.
I know, mate. I will. I think I've done that whole thing. Well, it's not. It's a lot more forgiving, isn't it? I'm sure but I've already now, like you said it, and I should have listened to you where you said going like why it's hot, because you remember where things are. It all makes sense. Do you know what I think I'll do when I do it? Maybe in a couple of weeks, and I've got just like a little free weekend. Like you said, it only took like 4 or 5 hours, didn't you?
If you could.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I'm just going to just run through it as like a guide up. So if I get stuck, I can just be like, right, get me through. Yeah. Next. Yeah,
I think it's because people are wanting that chat.
Yeah.
They were promised it. They wanted it all. They wanted full spoilers on it, and they're starting to get on my back.
Because if I'm honest, I'm not even fussed. There's just one bit I want to see that was like a sort of favourite bit for me back in when I played the original game, and then obviously you on my back every now and again going, oh, Resi 2, you haven't played it, you haven't seen the end.
Wow. Highest scoring game of the year so far according to Open Critic.
Yep, sort of my pick as well, so that's sort of bolstering the team as well. So
that is, well, and a team that's faltering as every game comes out, it seems like.
Well, that's just what people are trying to do, tearing them apart, but it's good, mate. Ace Fly or whatever, get that on VR soon. Recommended by the Dimp gang. So get Ace Combat, get that. Line it up.
The irony of this particular content that's going up, this will go up before your Astrobot one, which was recorded almost months ago now. So
Jesus, magic.
Sort of inside Dimp there on the production stream that we have.
Magic of the internet. It's there.
There's still more content in the pipeline, unbelievably. But
sort of a bit of a Soulsborne sort of review, because you can kind of work it out a little bit. Like, England played and won 5-0. When was that? What year is this? What month? So
when was this truly recorded?
Exactly.
And you said I started it in October and I gave away the amount of months. It's all there.
Yeah.
If people want to work out when this was recorded, it's all there.
Item descriptions. Have a look in your sort of iTunes. Work it out.
All right, mate. Well, thank you for that. That was a enlightening review, and I enjoyed that very much. So thanks for giving up your time to talk through Dark Souls Remastered. Once again, gets a 9 out of 10 gold seal of approval here at Dimp Digital. We will be back in your podcast app, on YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching us, very, very soon. So nothing more for us to say apart from thanks for your time and ta-da.